Hello, good morning. Welcome back to the Football Terrace up in London today, as we said. Studio settings today, but of course we're still bringing you live content, live updates, live news from around the footballing world. Of course, we mainly focus on the big six here. Interestingly, big news broke very late last night that Daniel Ek, of course the founder and one of the owners of the music streaming service Spotify, who has already had one bid for Arsenal Football Club turned down in the space of the last month, is set to make a second and improved bid to buy Arsenal Football Club. It's the transfer window. There's a lot of issues at Arsenal at the moment. There's a lot of frustration amongst Arsenal fans right now. Who they're going to buy? What is the calibre or the quality of personnel that they're out there in the market trying to buy? Nobody really quite knows. However, could this be a sign of improvements about to come into Arsenal Football Club? Could the Kroenkes, KSE, be persuaded this time round with an improved offer to sell the football club? Could this mean proper investment into the football club? That's a question that many people are going to ask in relation to this. My personal view is I don't think it's going to be enough. My personal view is, although we're reading that it's going to be over £2 billion offered at this time, I still can't see the Kroenkes doing it. I'm a Man United fan, as many of you will know, but let me just say this now very, very bluntly. I want this takeover to go through for Arsenal. As much as it's fun at times seeing Arsenal Football Club in the mud, as fun as it's good to see a rival fall from grace, maybe have one less team being a competitor against you, it's sometimes as fun as that can be, I don't like to see football clubs run poorly. One, working class people pump their hard-earned cash into these clubs on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, and they deserve better. Secondly, these clubs have all, in their own way, shape and form, been built from the blood, sweat, tears and finances, passion, energy, love, again, of the working class local communities. Some of our clubs, Arsenal being one of them, have grown from a local to a regional, to a national, to an international football club that entertains and gives amazing escapism to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world on a daily basis, or it's meant to at the very least. So I want to see football clubs run properly. And the reason that I don't overtly celebrate clubs being run poorly is because at some point in time, it could be your club. At some point in time, it could be, if you're a Liverpool fan, yours. It could, Chelsea, who knows where you're going to be in 20 years' time. And I think for me, we should be fighting as hard as we can to make sure the authorities ensure that clubs are run properly. There's no doubt about it. So for me, all rivalry aside, I want to see. It's why the other day with the Buendia news, I was so frustrated to see so many Arsenal fans almost just accept the sort of the status quo. I just thought, hang on a minute, you're playing into the owner's hands massively here by doing that. But this bid is set to be over £2 billion from Daniel Ek, of course, the founder and co-owner of the music streaming service Spotify. It's meant to be coming in pretty soon. But the question is, does anybody think this second bid is going to be accepted? The one thing that does stand out in my mind, though, and it's more of a question to pose than anything else. If they're looking to put this second bid together, there must be some sign of hope. Like, think about it logically. Daniel Ek isn't a chancer. Daniel Ek is not he's not a silly man. This guy is a billionaire. He has invented and created one of the most recognizable brands on planet Earth. I'm sure he's educated. I'm sure he's got a little bit of street smart about him. Why would he be making a second bid if he has no intention of actually buying the club? Because there are some people that have suggested he's doing it just for marketing purposes. There's some people that have suggested he's doing it just to kind of, boost the share price at Spotify. It's been done once. I don't think it will happen a second time round if he's playing. What does he know, or what has he been told that we don't in relation to this? The old expression, no smoke without fire. That's the one thing that's playing in my mind a little bit with this, but we will see. There's a comment here from Noah that says, our club has been run shambolically for years and our fan base allow mediocrity. Do you know what I would say is this? But most fan bases are the same. Most fan bases will go through a period of time where they're quote unquote frustrated with their football club. They protest or they fight, they argue, whatever it may be. You very rarely see a situation where no matter what's going on at any time of the season, there is complete energy towards change at a football club. Very rarely, very, very rarely do you see this. And Man United fans are no different. Liverpool fans a few weeks ago were on their club's neck and now they're not. It's just what happens. I'm not surprised by Arsenal fans. I saw Arsenal fans that I know and respect on socials kicking off Kroenke's this, greedy that, greedy that. I've seen them posting pictures with the new Arsenal shirts. And then they always give the same excuses. Oh, but buying the shirts doesn't actually feed directly into the club, so it doesn't really help. It does. It all does. There's a comment here from Sachin that says the Kroenkes won't sell. And they may very well not. So that begs the question, why is Daniel Ek spending his time, energy and effort making a second bid if there's no desire from them to sell? I just want to understand that. I don't know the answer as to do it. Terry, out for a run while I'm chowing down on muffins. Actually, I'm not out for a run. I'm in London today. I've got meetings today, so I drove up early. I'm currently in Stratford, so I'm about to park the car and jump on the tube and go to where I've got to be. I always like to be in Stratford. I want to go shopping afterwards, basically. So I thought I'll park at Westfield, which is just over there. I think I'm in the Olympic, where the Olympic Park was now. I think that's where I am. I think this is where the Olympic Village was, where the athletes used to stay. Look, I'll move the camera slightly. You can see I think this was like the Olympic Village stuff here. Yeah, so that's the settings I'm at right now. Good morning to Chelsea Transfer Gossip. Hope you're well. Do me a favour, everyone who's tuning in, and hit that like button, please. Very important that you do that. A comment here from Drav says, Josh Kroenke told their fans to be excited during their fan forum. Smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I would say I'd give it a 10% chance of a bid being accepted. Actually, let me lie. I would give it a 5% chance of the bid being accepted. I think there's a 10% chance that they will sell. Some people say things like, oh, the Kroenke, it's true. The Kroenkes belong to the Walton family. I think they're called the Walton family in America, who could literally buy Spotify. They're that rich. I don't necessarily think their reason for selling won't be money. Their reason for selling won't be, oh, look, we can make a tidy profit. That's not what I think they would sell for. I think if they feel maybe they're fighting a losing battle, they're never going to love and the respect that they want, that it's actually just more hassle than it's worth, then they'll sell. And if they do sell, it would tell me also that at some level they have a bit of a care for this football club. But we will see. Any Haaland updates? Later on today we're doing the Haaland updates. Terry, can we get Reuben Neves? Look, the Reuben Neves situation is really interesting when it comes to Arsenal. So it's a tough one really with Reuben Neves, because I think he's doable. I almost think it's a bit of a tap-in really of a signing, because the reason he joined Wolverhampton Wanderers was to play for Nuno. Nuno's time at Wolverhampton Wanderers is over. He isn't moving on to something bigger and better, you would say. He's moving on to Crystal Palace. I don't want to sound disrespectful. I don't think they're in as good a position as Wolves in the grand scheme of things. But that's where he's going. Neves is not going to go to Crystal Palace, so it isn't about following. About following Nuno anymore. It's about his own path, and I think he's going to want a lot bigger and better than where he's at. So for me, I think it's very doable for Arsenal. Where I would be concerned as an Arsenal fan is if anybody else with any presence comes in for him. You've already lost out one deal for Emi Buendia. Could it be the other way around? A lot of people talking about that Chelsea bidding for Hakimi as well. Yes, that's true. That happened. They did. That's true. Well, reports that they did. I don't know if they actually have done. We'll touch on the Chelsea. We'll touch on transfer news a little bit later on this morning. Don't worry about that. We'll be back with you to give you updates on that. There's no issue with that at all. JJ here says Arsenal fans are only going to get heartbroken thinking they could sign Sancho and Konate. Lower your expectations. Well, JJ, that's maybe that's true under the Kroenkes, but if this bid for Daniel Ek goes through, then maybe not. And this is where I want to see Arsenal fans maintain that pressure they put on during that first protest, those first couple of weeks after the Super League was announced and then fell apart. I think that's what needs to be done as far as I'm concerned, because from my perspective, if the fans roll over and allow the Kroenkes to tickle their belly, and that's, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that's any Arsenal fan who spends money on the club, any Arsenal fan who buys the merchandise, any Arsenal fan that follows them on social media, retweets their stuff, or just drinks a Kool-Aid, basically. You're all helping and you're having your bellies tickled by the Kroenkes, and I think that you all need to stand up as beautifully and as wonderfully as you did a few weeks ago. Terry, they love the merch and T-shirts. Well, then it's on them. And if they're willing to keep pumping money into the football club, if they're willing to keep the Kroenkes in business, then for me, that's fine, because every single person has the right to, make that choice. We live in a free society. I'm not judging them. I'm legitimately not. But what you can't do is scream and beg for change at the same time as feeding the beast that's holding you back. You can do it. When I say you can't, I mean you can't hope for change whilst you're still feeding and enabling the bad behaviours. And I've said it before, it's tough love. It's tough love. I remember watching a documentary once about drug abuse. It's going to be a warped example, but I stand by it. And there was a mother and a father that were talking about their daughter's drug addiction. They split up because the mother's approach was basically just lock her in a room to make her go cold turkey. We'll throw her some scraps of food every day until she's gone through that period process. Then we'll get her into rehab to try and make her better. Her dad's approach was, but I don't want to see my little girl in pain as she's going through cold turkey, so I'd rather buy her or give her the small amounts of drugs she needs to not see her go through physical pain and torment. Now, I'm not comparing Arsenal's situation to a highly emotive and dangerous and emotionally heartbreaking situation such as that, but the premise and the process is the same. Our Arsenal fans, our Man United fans, our Tottenham fans, any fan of a club where we're not happy with how we're run, are we prepared to go through the pain of not going to games, not buying merchandise, to a degree not supporting our team almost publicly for a period of time to get what we want? Now, a lot of arguments are going, there's no point me doing it because nobody else is going to join in. Really? I mean, multiply and use that logic through life. I'm not going to do the right thing because there are other people that won't do it. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to go and burgle houses. Why, Terry? That's wrong. Yeah, but there are other people that are doing it, so why shouldn't I? That's the attitude for me, and for me it's defeatist. For me it's not even weak. It's not even a weak attitude. It's a weak excuse. It just tells me you're not as angry at the way your club is being run as you're making out. It's a bit of virtue signalling that's going on, and that's the only time I get frustrated with the Kroenke outers and the Glazer outers, and then I see him in a brand new tracksuit. It's like, oh, please, just drop me out. Mute. Ezra here says, hopefully we'll get relegated. Well, that's the thing. I can't see Arsenal ever getting relegated, if I'm being honest. Lee here says, I'm so happy that Chelsea is so hard on themselves, so the fans usually will not be mad at how the club is run. Listen, even the best run clubs in the world go through periods and have problems, appoint the wrong managers, sign the wrong players. This stuff happens on a regular basis because it's human nature. It's human nature. These things happen and go on. But Chelsea always strive to be the best. Chelsea always strive to get back to the top. Chelsea always strive to be the very best version of themselves. And not winning trophies is unacceptable. Coming second and getting to finals and losing isn't acceptable. Managers don't get new deals. Players, for me at Chelsea, they have between a 12 to 18 month period to prove they're good enough, or they get moved on, or the club start trying to sell them. And maybe youngsters get a little bit longer, but that's just a general rule at the football club. That's just a general the way that the football club is run. Man City, I don't think are overtly different in that way. There'll be nuances that, of course, differ in the way they're run and whatnot. But Man United and Arsenal and Spurs, we've been rewarding mediocrity for too long. Now, there's no harm in celebrating the small steps of progression as long as your overall aim for where you want the club to be changes. And that's the irony. All the people that are like, I'm not lowering my expectations as Arsenal and Man United fans. They're the opposite end of that extreme. They don't want to celebrate any of the steps to get there. They just want to get back to that top, and they don't understand that the journey that you need to go on to get there. And it's understanding that football just doesn't work. When you've been run as badly as Arsenal and Man United have for so long, you can't just go from being shit to great in one season. It's nigh on impossible. JJ says here that mediocrity has been slowly normalised at Arsenal since their last Premier League in 2003. Now that is absolutely true. And you see it every year, normalised, to a point where I cannot believe that I actually saw Arsenal fans tweet things to the Buendia News the other day. Actually, it's fair that we didn't put a buyout clause in there. We're bigger and better than that. At the same time as screaming, we could be relegated because we're run poorly. Yet you still want to, the point is, maybe Arsenal can't go from a point of where they are to signing players on terms they dictate without lowering those expectations in the short to medium term to climb back up the tree. And I think that's where the happy medium needs to be found, in my opinion. 10 years of neglect to their identity. I agree with you on that. Jerry here. Jerry, oh, they're talking to each other. I won't read that one out. You guys are chatting to each other. Up the irons is what Mark says. We have had crap owners for years. No sympathy from me. Poor Diddy, top 6 clubs. Listen, I hear you. I mean, listen, West Ham, Sullivan and Gold, we know why they bought West Ham for, I can't quite see it, the building where, but the Olympic Stadium's just there, or the London Stadium's just there. They bought it because they thought having that stadium, actually being around here is amazing. I can't believe I'm in Stratford, to be fair. It's like I'm in another country. It's warm today, the way it's built up is mad. I've never actually been in this part ever. And it's like, they thought a billionaire would come in by now, buy them out, they'd make a nice profit, West Ham would have good owners, but life don't work like that. Comment here, Glazers offering fans a chance to invest in the club with a share scheme. Do you know what it is? I haven't read about that, so I can't give an opinion wholeheartedly. But for me, I would invest in a share scheme at United if the money I invested I knew was being spent on things I wanted it to be spent on. So if every money of fan investment went into the squad, stadium, the ladies team, etc., I wouldn't mind having a bit of that. I wouldn't mind having a bit of it. The problem is I don't want to invest in Man United. I've never bought stocks and shares in Man United. I don't want to profit directly off Man United when I know that most of the money isn't being pumped into the team. If I knew that every time the Glazers made £200 million off Man United, 100 million got pumped back, 150 million got pumped back into the club, I'd invest in them. But they're not doing that. This is one thing about normal companies, right? Even the companies that are run for profit, proper businesses. Do you know how much money Amazon, for instance, spends in itself each year in tech and in development and in infrastructure? They invest in themselves. And that's why they're great for any economy, because jobs, etc. Jobs stimulate lots. Man United don't do that. It's all for their own personal gain. It isn't about the club. Specialist here says, I understand Arsenal fans having expectations, but it's not a good idea to first figure out the plan of play on the field to go from 8th to 4th, then sign good players. Well, yeah, I think you have to first of all understand what your aims are as a football club, how you're going to get there, then you put a plan of action of what you need, and I think, Arsenal now needs to think about, from a progression on the field, it has to be, how do we get from 8th to challenging for 4th? Then how do we cement ourselves in 4th? Then how do we become title challengers again? I think you have to go through all of those stages. That, for me, it isn't just taking Arsenal 4 or 5 years to get there, it's the fact that everybody else is striving for that at the same time. So Arsenal can improve every year by 10% for 5 years and still not be in the top 4, because everybody else might improve by that amount as well. It's understanding that element, it's understanding that element, and we've all been there in life. You could be I don't know, you could be a sprinter, right, every year, and I don't even know how this works in the sport, I want to shave 0.1, 0.2 seconds off my 100-metre sprint. You might do that every year for 3 years, but I'm much faster now. But if everybody else has done a very similar thing, then you'll find yourself still finishing in the same place, right? So it's understanding that to actually get back in front of Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, City on a sustainable basis, it's going to take years of growth. It's understanding this and tempering your expectations and only accepting things when you can see that you are aiming to get there in the medium to long term, because it's not going to be a short-term fix for a club that's been neglected for nearly 20, you're talking 20 years in neglect. There are kids that support Arsenal that I speak to on my show that are 17, 18, 19 that don't remember the last time Arsenal were very good. That's how long some of these kids, their mum and dads met, dated, had sex, had a baby, got married, no particular order, right? They were born, they were toddlers, they learnt to walk, they cut their teeth, they learnt to speak, they were toddlers, they went to nursery, to infant school, to primary school, to senior school, they're now at college, some of them have started uni, some of them have got kids of their own, and Arsenal haven't got back to being a legitimately competitive team. So for me, until they learn to temper those expectations but maintain you get back to the heights in the end, there's always going to be this frustration and annoyance. But that short-term frustration and annoyance always ends up taken away. And the reason I bring all this background full circle, right? All this time round back full circle. It always ends up being on players and managers, and people stop talking about the Kroenkes. The pressure has to be on the Kroenkes. The same as at Man United. The whole, the Glaze. I got attacked on socials a few weeks ago because I mentioned Ollie in a tweet. All the Glazer outers are all back to their, Ollie this, and McTominay that, and Rashi this, and blah, 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 blah. Great. You're not focusing on the real problem again, are you? And this plays, and the reason that frustrates me isn't because your opinion differs to mine. I don't really care about that. It's that you are rolling over and letting the Glazers or the Kroenkes tickle your fluffy little bellies. It's as simple as that. Let's do a few more comments here. Specialist is definitely, Terry, they need a strategy internally that improves them. Yes, and that strategy needs to take into consideration their competition. Absolutely. But listen, that's all from me this morning. Quick update. Arsenal Football Club may be getting a second takeover bid from Spotify co-founder or founder and co-owner, one of the two ways round. Circa £2 billion offer is expected to come through in the coming days, maybe in the next week or so. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how that plays out. But until next time, everybody, please hit that like button. Please share this stream on your social media platforms. And until then, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all soon.